Richardson with Relevate. Welcome back for another episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? Today we're going to be talking about why you can't buy a home in this market. We hear that phrase all the time. I can't buy a home right now in this market. What do I do? Well, I'm going to give you the top 3 reasons that we hear that people cannot buy, and I'm going to tell you how to resolve those problems. So number 1, one of the biggest hot topics of 2023, interest rates. So something I definitely want to kind of debunk is interest rates aren't going anywhere. We're always going to have them in some capacity. And yes, you'll hear some folks who are of an older generation talk about how when they bought a house, it was 18% or 12%. Obviously, that doesn't help the younger or current generation when they're talking about their kind of ebbs and flows that they've seen with interest rates in this market. It was a little bit of a shock factor for us to come from the upper 2s to low 3s on interest rates and kind of go back towards where it was sitting around 7. So something to consider is don't listen when people say date the rate, marry the house. Yes, that's all warm and fuzzy. It sounds great. It's one of those really catchy taglines. We've seen it all over social media and a lot of print material as well. But that doesn't help you feel better when you're having to pay potentially a 7% interest rate when you've heard so many other people have purchased maybe at like 2.5. So think about it like this. You can't control the past, right? But how can you control the current situation? So some things you can consider. The seller rate buy down. Can they give you any funds to help buy down that rate? Is it something you could work out with your lender? New construction also offers lots of opportunities for you to use their in-house lender. And then that rate can actually be significantly lower, sometimes as much as 2 points lower than where it's sitting out for the general public. Another one is to concede on some of your asks. This one's a little bit tougher to swallow, but think about it like this. If you've been shopping for a home and you only wanted 3-car garages, those are going to come at a much higher price point, meaning that interest rate might impact you in a little bit of a stronger way. If you were able to give up one of your criterion, which one would it be? Could you get rid of that 3rd-car garage, lower that overall purchase price, and maybe that interest rate doesn't hit you the same way? The other one, and this is number 2, is houses are too expensive. So of course, again, one of my favorite things that a lot of folks like to do in their research process is to look up what the current seller bought the house for. That's not going to help you at all. When you look at what they bought the house for in 1982, of course it's going to be cheaper. That makes sense, right? Times were different. Costs were different. So don't frustrate yourself or overwhelm yourself in the process by looking at what the current sellers bought the house for. Even if it was a couple of years ago, that information is not going to help you at all. So something that you really want to look at is look for homes that maybe have high days on market. Are they overpriced? Is there some wiggle in that purchase price where maybe you and the seller can work together to get that deal done? Number 2, are you looking maybe in an area that's considered a next phase of life location? So let me explain this a little bit better. Often when we're in, let's say, our 20s, for example, and we're looking to buy our first house, I hear this a lot that you want to buy your forever home. Keep in mind, the average home buyer actually lives in their property 5 to 7 years, and they cycle through that multiple times throughout life. Because as life changes, whether it's your job shifts, family structure shifts, your dynamic within a family construct, or your roommate situation, all of that changes, economic shift, there are reasons why people either upsize, downsize, or shift to a different location. So don't look at it as though you're buying your forever home when you still have a lot of forever left, meaning you got a lot of years left in life. So are you looking a little too high? One of the misnomers I think right now is people feeling like they have to have all the things, the perfect house right now. Sometimes it's a better process to actually invest in a property, gain some equity, and roll it to the next one. So make sure you're being realistic with your own situation and where you want to wind up. Another one is there something in that criteria that could be tweaked, whether it's the age of home, the particular location, things like that. If you want to be close to a certain area, let's say it's a driving distance to work, are you considering looking at a radius all the possibilities. So let's say you really want to be close to RTP. That's Research Triangle Park for those of you who don't live here, but that's a hub for a lot of our biotech and medical and technology companies. You need to be within driving distance, let's say 20 minutes. Often people immediately go to Cary, right? Because Cary seems to just kind of get that draw, that pull. Well, there are lots of other municipalities that are really close by that you should consider that have the same driving distance. Maybe one of those locations fit the budget a little bit better. Something else to consider too is, let's say you want to be within a particular city or a particular neighborhood. Sometimes they actually cross either municipality lines or even county lines. Perfect example, there is a very large community called Montvale that actually is in Cary. Cary splits a couple of counties. So half of the neighborhood is in Wake County and the other side of the neighborhood is in Chatham County. There are very different things that you get living in one county versus the other, versus like, let's say, a large school system and a smaller school system, or difference in property taxes and all of that. So just make sure you're looking at the whole picture when it comes to that purchase price. And then number 3, I don't have any money saved for either the down payment or closing costs. This one's actually a lot easier to resolve than people think. Number 1, can you ask the seller to help chip in for closing costs? Can you wrap it into part of the deal? Going back to a home that maybe has high days on market, is there a possibility that maybe they've done a couple of price drops? You could actually push that price back up by adding in those closing costs, meaning the seller's now getting a higher purchase price, but you're also getting the closing costs paid for. Another option is to talk to your lender. Is there any type of loan product that might actually be better for you where you can put less down? There are some great ones that are actually backed by the government. You have things like a VA loan, a FHA, a USDA, or even a DPA. I know, lots of acronyms, but they all stand for great things and great opportunities for you to put as little as 0 to maybe even 5% down versus the standard 20%, which, guys, a lot of people don't put down 20%. The only reason you do that is to get rid of private mortgage insurance, which is actually not something you have to do right off the bat. So make sure you're looking at all of those different options and you're considering whether or not these are actually hard no's. Is it really that you can't buy in this market? Or do we need to look at it from a different angle? I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we will see you next time. But before we do, make sure you like, share, and follow so that you stay up to date the next time we drop more content here on YouTube or Spotify. See you next time.